Okay, so inside of Schooloop, I created this file for you. It's called Layer Effects. The only thing you have to do is open it up in Photoshop. I would like you to please file Save As, and then I'd like you to add your last name and your first name to the file. I would save it to your desktop so you can find it again. And I would go ahead and click Save. Okay. Now, we are going to apply layer effects to each of these. The order of these goes, as you can see, there's quite a few of them. The layers go from 1 all the way to copy 11. So I started here, I moved across, and then it starts over, so it starts back over here. We're going to start by adding layer effects to each of these. The first layer effect that I'm going to add is the bevel and emboss. I copied the same thing so that you would have text boxes to re-enter the names of all the other layer effects that you're going to add. So we're going to start on this part. I'm going to go ahead with my layer 1 and I'm going to double click on it and I'm going to click on the bevel and emboss. Now the bevel and emboss, don't click on contour or texture. I guess you could if you wanted to. Or you could make that another layer effect for the second part, so it's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and just do bevel and emboss. Once the word is selected, you can go ahead and choose how you want the embossing to affect the object. So I'm going to do it an inner emboss, which means that the embosses and bevel are going to go into the object. I'm going to do a smooth. You don't have to. You could do a hard chisel or a chisel soft. It's up to you. This is just for fun. And then the depth, I'm going to change my depth. The size, I'm going to make it fairly small, not too big, and I'm going to have it softened. Once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And because I use that layer effect for this specific part, I'm going to keep the name bevel and emboss. Now, this layer goes with this Bart. This goes with that Bart as well. This is my next Bart, and I'm going to go ahead and double click on that. And then maybe I go ahead and I choose the texture one. I'm going to do it maybe a bigger depth, a little bit of a deeper and less soft effect. Let me see if I can try these. It's really just a matter of experimenting. So I like the inner, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to that. Now for this one, I'm going to click on my type layer, my bevel emboss copy layer. I'm going to grab my type tool and I'm going to double click on the word. So it's going to take me into my box. And I'm going to change the name. If I have to, I can go ahead and make my font size smaller so I can try to fit all of it in there. Okay, next one. I'm going to switch now to stroke. I'm going to focus on the outside. And I'm just going to have some fun with this. So I'm going to go ahead and choose stroke. If you forget which layer effect you used, it's actually right here. So I'm going to grab my type tool. I'm going to select this and I'm going to do stroke. I'm going to switch now to my next one. I can change the color. You can do normal. You could do, I like multiply, that's a nice one. Opacity is high. The distance is going to be, I want to make the distance a little bit bigger. Okay. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to go in with my type tool. I'm going to double click highlight, and I'm going to take a look at my layer effect that I used, and I'm going to type the name. Now, sometimes with the type tool, it's really obnoxious. What happens is the type tool will make a new box for some reason. It's very sensitive. So after you've done this, if you're ready to go type, which I am, I'm going to come from the center. I like the edges. Let's switch to the edge. Okay, and you can play around with the blend modes. We're going to talk about these later. Okay. Alright, so let me show you what happens. This is exactly what I was talking about. So we're going to go ahead with the type tool. Sometimes you click out here. What happens is you've made a new layer. The type tool can be very sensitive, so I'm going to throw that away, and then I'm going to go back to clicking on this one, highlighting it, and do inner glow. Okay, next one, I'm going to double click. I've done inner shadow, inner glow. Let's try satin. You can do multiples, so you don't have to do just one. Just as long as you type in what you're doing so that I can see what you added to your object, that's what matters. Okay. And you can see that some of these you wouldn't really think about adding this to the object if you're doing a graphic, but it's just fun to experiment and see what you can get. So this one was satin, and I would basically just keep going all the way through till I'm done. Now this one is going to be the next part down here. So color overlay. This one is fun. You can change the color, but then you can change your opacity as well. Okay, so this is a perfect example. My type tool has made a new layer, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that, and I'm going to come back and double click on this. And this one is color overlay. Okay. Alright, the gradient. This one's fun. The gradient actually has a lot of different things you can do. You can change the color of the gradient. You're not stuck with these colors. You can also change it to go linear. You can change it on the angle. You can make it reflected or a diamond. It's up to you. You can play around with the colors. So if you wanted to create your own, you could double click and create your own gradient panel. And we could raise up the opacity. It looks like it's a little bit low. Okay. And then I would come in here and do gradient overlay. Alright, so have some fun with this. Finish up the rest of the parts. You have about 4 more to go. You can go ahead and save this when you're done as a JPEG. So File, Save As. Make sure it's last name, first name, layer effects, and you convert this to a JPEG, and you'll be ready to go.